Jesus. Okay. Good morning. We'll try that again, shall we? I'd really like for once, just one day, something to not go wrong. But anyway, just so you know, there appear to be planes flying all around, and because we live in the hills, and I'm on stilts, my house tends to make a lot of noise and shake. So if you hear something, just try to ignore that. I'm not sure if there's bushfires or something. They've sort of warned us that that was going to happen, but just letting you know in case this is something that becomes an issue. If something happens, then I will need to. I will get to that, Doug. That's specifically what this episode is about, and I'm about to fucking go there. So hang in there, okay? So a bit of housekeeping. If my sound distorts, because I had some problems with the sound on the last one, just ping me a message and I'll adjust the mic up and down. I've just made it work. So, okay. So, if you watched South Park last night or yesterday or today, depending on where you are, you may have seen that they kind of address the issue of transgender women in sports. Now, that's a fairly contentious issue. It was funny. And they went so much further than I expected. I was hoping they'd go for Yaniv, but honestly, I like the fact that they didn't give Yaniv any attention, but they managed to South Park the issue anyway. So that's actually been done well. Now, let me think. So I'm going to play you a little clip from the show just because it's easier, and then we'll talk about it because I will get to the other stuff and I'll start to explain as we go. But I'll start with the South Park clip. If you haven't seen it, let me introduce you to Heather. Okay, so
this is the first year that a trans woman is in the competition. How do you feel about that?
Amazing. I feel honored to be a part of history. I have a lot of incredible trans friends who are athletes, and so we're all inspired this woman's competing.
Uh-huh. And have you actually ever met Heather Swanson?
No, I've never competed against her before, no.
She's not exactly your average trans athlete.
Well, what is an average trans athlete? Honestly, I find that kind of bigoted, David.
Okay.
How is that on a loop?
Heather Swanson is actually joining us now. Miss Swanson, how does it feel to be competing today?
I can't tell you how free I feel now that I've started identifying as a woman. Now that I can compete as female, I'm ready to smash the other girls.
And is it correct you just started identifying as female 2 weeks ago?
I'm not here to talk about my transition. I'm here to kick some f***ing ass. Let me tell you something, Dingleberry.
David Perry.
I'm gonna roll up the other women here, and I'm gonna smoke them. I am the strongest woman this state has ever seen.
Any words for the challenger, Miss Woman?
Good luck, Heather.
Luck is for dudes.
Well, with that, let's get right to the action.
Rising to the top, push it to the edge, give it all you got, barely break a sweat, strong woman, yeah, she's got speed, she's got the move, she's got the muscle and a whole lot to prove, strong woman, hey yo, go strong woman, go, hey
So there we go. Okay. So they went there, and hello, B. Yes, I am here. I had some technical problems, so we're all good. But so I was just playing the South Park clip for those that are just joining us. Just that was the trailer. That's the public trailer that they put on Twitter. But I do recommend that you watch the whole episode, because even though, see, the problem with a lot of the reactions with this stuff is always that they don't fucking get the joke. There's a common theme with my videos, which is that they don't fucking get the joke and they miss the punchline, right? The punchline was that even PC Principal and even the PC babies, when confronted with the idea that a pro wrestler looking man, right, who beating the shit out of a woman in women's sports, that is enough to have a conversation. Okay, there's a bit in the episode where they say, I'm paraphrasing, but basically it's like, there's no point talking to the babies about this. They've already made up their mind. And it was just so pitch perfect in terms of capturing the debate, or lack of debate, because there is no debate apparently. And this is something that I've obviously been deep diving in for quite some time now, and also been quite afraid to talk about, but I'm starting to feel like maybe it might be safe. Again, I'm not sure. This could I could get dog at any moment. You're going to understand why I'm afraid as I go through, right? I'm just so hesitant to talk about this issue because it's just toxic. Okay. The left, this is a major reason why I feel the left have lost their fucking minds, because they just turn on anybody who doesn't completely comply 100% with everything that is fucking what is deemed fucking fact. They just make something up, and they make up a word, and then fucking you must comply. And even if you just need a minute, which I will get to Hillary Clinton soon, which is that Hillary Clinton basically just said, well, I think people might need a fucking minute. It was the same thing with Caitlyn Jenner, right? And I remember that there was that people have very fucking short memories, but Kris Jenner had a hard time sort of processing it, and her reaction was not positive, right? And I remember sitting there, and she was fucking dragged over the coals, right? Because the person that she'd been married to forever, they needed a fucking minute, okay? And it was just like, and I actually sat there and I was like, you know what? I needed a minute. Everybody needed a minute. And acknowledging that you need a minute is okay. But now, apparently not completely, reflexively, absolutely accepting everything gets you cast with the TERF brush. And the reason why I want to talk about that is because the implications of being cast with that TERF brush are incredibly serious. Okay, so I am going to get to defining TERF. I will walk through it, but I just needed to frame context. And also, anyone who's watched my streams knows that I take a few minutes to sort of get into the guts of things, and then eventually I find my groove, right? So, and for those that are sort of the feminists that are watching who already know this, and anyone who's already across all of this stuff, bear with me while I just explain this, because I'm trying to get people who are on the fence, people who disagree but are curious, and your everyday person to understand what is actually happening here. And yep, I'm going there. I'm going into the TERF wars, as B just said. I was literally going to say TERF wars, and then you typed it. We're in sync with each other, lovey. Okay, so this puts coriander to fucking shame, okay? I could talk about this. I could do an entire channel dedicated to this, but I don't want to. Okay? I want to talk about it in terms of the politics and the digital politics, and a lot of the... Because once you understand what's going on with the TERF wars, like for me, seeing this behaviour made me see the other stuff with this social justice movement for what it was. And this is why I'm sort of heading into my hypothesis that this is actually a cult, right? That's come out of Tumblr on the internet. It's fucking fantastic. It's fucking fascinating for someone like me. So now I'm streaming for the first time on at 1080p at 60 frames a second. So I'm hoping that my connection holds. If it doesn't, I'll just downgrade to the old quality stuff, but I'm just trying to see if I can get the quality a little bit better. But yeah, anyway, so if you've seen the South Park episode, there's context to what they're doing, and they have been tremendously stunning and brave with this episode, because what this has done is that it speaks to the base of the issue, and they really, it shows that they get it, and yeah, so it's funny, right? Watch the episode. Even if you don't watch South Park, watch that one episode. It is, I mean, I doubt it's going to win any Emmys because it just won't. However, thanks, Doug. So it's, what was I going to say? Yeah. Let me pause for a second, gather my ADD thoughts, and turn the yellow down because my teeth look yellow. There we go. So, all right, so there's history to this. It's slightly blurry. Sorry, B said it's slightly blurry, but only to the point where I look like Katherine Heigl. Do I look like Katherine Heigl in Grey's Anatomy, or Katherine Heigl in Suits where her face is all fucked up? I imagine if I got like as much Botox and fucking shit done that I probably would. Yeah, that's funny. Anyway, thank you. That's a compliment. Anyway, so I'm getting distracted here because I do want to talk about the fucking. This is going to be epic. Okay. 1 second. Let me just hide this panel so I can see the chats as well. And we're good. Okay. So there's context to this South Park episode, because what I'm seeing is that really what they managed to illustrate was that things have changed. The language has changed. Shit's getting real, okay? This movement has sort of snuck in. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit down, I'm going to explain some of this stuff. This might be a long stream, but it is what it is. It takes what it takes. Watch, don't watch. I'm at that point where it's like, watch, don't watch. I'm sure if you find it of value, then you'll watch. So now, when you think of a trans person, I think for most people, myself included, right? Caitlyn Jenner was, like probably the most high profile. You got celebrities, right? We'll talk about Laverne Cox, Caitlyn Jenner, Chaz Bono. There's lots of people, right? Or if you're in Australia, you think of someone like Carlotta, okay? Transsexual, lives as a woman, or presents as a woman, for all intents and purposes, right? Semantics aside, and I'll get to like why those semantics are important. You think about your average transsexual who has genital reassignment surgery. You think of someone who is on hormone treatment. You're thinking of, that traditional. Yeah, when you think of transsexual, that's what you think of, okay? And I think there's a lot of people who actually just haven't thought about it, okay? And this is where I'll get to Hillary Clinton, which is that there's a generational. There is a funny story, actually. I'm remembering my grandmother who appeared on my feed on my stream yesterday, where I remember this was probably, my daughter was little, so easily like 17 years ago, something like that. And we were just having lunch and she just turns around and goes, "What's a tranny?" Just out of nowhere. right? Because she said, and she just didn't know, right? She didn't even know what a lesbian was until she was like in her 40s. Like that's that generation that just wasn't talked about. It wasn't common, okay? Now, it's... I don't like you know, like, again, I'm just quoting the words. The problem is that all these fucks are going to be offended no matter what you say. So I'm just going to say the words that I want to say, let it stand, and let fucking sanity prevail. I'm just hoping that sanity can prevail, and that's why South Park was so good, because it really did show the absurdity of it, and because I want to also talk about the fact that, anyway, I'll get there. So, again, ADD meds probably haven't kicked in properly yet. So, so when you think of your average, you know, I have a large, so you think of someone who is going through the process, or you might think of, again, this is in your average mind without understanding all of the science or anything like that. You might conflate someone like an intersex person with a trans person, someone who's sort of gender, they're literally non-binary, right? Where they're, I know hermaphrodite's a politically incorrect term and it doesn't really exist, but I'm just saying that for your average person, okay? So you think of that, okay? Now, this is where the movement has been clever, because the fact that people are ignorant is why this is happening, okay? So now let me get because otherwise my brain fucking goes off, right? I will just, so I want it to be clear. So there is a difference between transgender, okay, and transsexual, first of all, okay? The difference is, and this is, again, by design. So when you think of your average transsexual, okay, they are someone who has had genital reassignment. So some, you know, a lot of people don't. About 80% actually just retain their parts, right? I don't care. It's none of my business. It's, you know, but whatever, right? I don't like talking about genitals because it's just fucking tawdry. And also then you get accused of being obsessed with fucking genitals, which is not the case. I'd rather just whatever, okay? I'm pretty open-minded. I'm not a prude. I think it's impolite. And I think people's privacy needs to be respected. I just wanted to qualify that for anybody who might think that we're sitting here, you know, all of this projection, like TERFs get accused of fucking being obsessed with genitals when we're not. It's all just projection. They have this ability to project their own truth onto everyone else, which is quite funny. So anyway, so that I just want it to be clear, right? So recently, very recently, out of Tumblr, and from Judith Butler and a couple of other fucking feminist philosophers that really, you should go back and read it. It's by anyone who is in, it's just created this fucking weird ass fucking cult around one or two like feminists who just wrote ideas. There's no fucking science to it. There's nothing, okay? It's just a bunch of words on paper, bunch of ideas. It's a premise. And an idea. There's no real theory, there's no real hypothesis, okay? And so Judith Butler is the gender studies Bible, but out of Tumblr and out of places like Jezebel and a lot of feminist places, it has sort of risen, and out of sort of Stonewall and LGBT movements. Again, I consider myself an LGBT, old style T ally, okay? But recently, and again, I don't know the timing of this, but I'll get to that, B. B just pointed out that intersex is very rare, and yes, that's true. So for those that are listening, I'm just letting you know that I will get to that point. I'm going to talk about co-opting and shifting just now. So what has happened is that you've got transsexual, right, who may or may not have a genital reassignment surgery, but for all intents and purposes live as the opposite gender, okay? Now, sex and gender used to be considered synonyms, okay? And that's probably where, and a lot of people get the two confused. Like I still see people saying gender equality when they mean sex equality, right? Gender and sex are different. So you have biological sex, and gender is all of the social norms, you know, this idea that girls wear pink, boys wear girls wear pink, boys wear blue, girls wear dresses, girls are emotional, boys are strong, you know, all of these ideas around femininity. And so if gender is about femininity and masculinity as concepts, okay, they aren't about female and male sex. So it's very important to understand that those things are separate, okay? Now, you do have intersex people, okay? They are you know, I've got, yeah, it's legit, right? But they're, first of all, very small portion of the population, okay? It's rare. Second of all, even if you are intersex, you still present as largely, right, as one dominant sex. So you could be an intersex male, okay? Again, there's so many different things, right, whatever, okay? But I'm just this is being simplistic for your average person who doesn't even know that there's fucking intersex people, right? I'm just explaining it, right, which is that they've got both male and female biology at the same time, but usually one is dominant, okay? Now, well, yeah, and so B actually made a very good point. So there was, for the history, that a lot of the reason why the word the word gender is not something that was dominant up until sort of really in the 80s. I mean, it was used other times, but a lot of that was around people being too squeamish, right? And this is what B said, which is, she said, it's because people are this is for people who are listening, it's because people who are ridiculously squeamish and think that gender is a less rude way of saying sex. So what happened was, gender was a separate concept which came out of fucking, you know, which is masculinity and femininity, okay? And then because, you know, government departments and schools didn't like putting sex on their forms, right? This is how this is fucking, yeah. This is where it's, oh, yeah, fucking government fucks everything up, but whatever, bureaucracy fucks everything up, right? But because churches, governments, this is back, you know, this is prudishness backfiring, which is that people not wanting to use clinically appropriate terms and have now managed to fuck everything up for everybody else, which is funny. It's kind of backfiring of prudishness. It's funny when you think about it. So anyway, I digress. Where was I? So I was saying that intersex is rare, but you're largely dominant. Like, there's largely dominant biology, okay? Now, there is the theory that if you are transgender or transsexual, which, and again, they are separate things because gender and sex are different, okay? And you can't change sex, but let's just say that, let's use, let's say transsexual means that you live as the opposite gender to your sex full time, okay? Just for simple reasons, okay? Now, I can't remember what my point was. Anyway, it's important to know that gender and sex are different things. It's important to know that feminine and masculine and female and male are different things, okay? So radical feminists traditionally not even radical feminists, this is fucking most feminists up until recently, right? Where, and I talked a little bit about this in Jezebel, where in a previous video, where I saw the shift, where I saw fucking Tumblr kids coming in and just changing all of the words and changing all of the meanings of words. And, but basically the classical feminist view, right, is that gender is oppressive, okay? So this idea of femininity and masculinity is the problem, right? Tomboys, there's no problem. You're not a tomboy, you're just a fucking girl who doesn't like dresses. Like, there's nothing wrong with that, right? And boys who, and a lot of this is, you know, boys who don't like expressing themselves in a feminine way. Okay, so boys who like pink, okay, still a boy, right? They just like pink. So this So where transgender sort of took a 45 degree into crazy town, right? Now, again, I'm separating transsexual from intersex and intersex because the one thing that people aren't aware of is that the transgender movement actually bully transsexuals and they bully intersex people as well, okay? Because transsexuals and intersex people are fucking sick of having their stuff co-opted, okay, by the transgenders. And I'm going to talk about the transgenders, okay? Now, so Ray Blanchard, okay, now traditionally you would have, so transgender is not the same thing as transsexual necessarily, okay? The transgenders call transsexuals true scum, okay? They love their words, they love their slurs, and they love their fucking dog whistles, all right? Okay, now, so I just want you to be clear that they're different things. The transgender umbrella, okay, comprises of, now I'm not, again, this is a not all trans people thing, this is just, I'm explaining it to your average person, okay, where transgender is different from transsexual. And so they've sort of expanded the definition to include, okay, people, non-binary people, okay? So non-binary is a gender identity, but you still have a biological sex, okay? Again, outside of intersex. I'm not sure if my friend who fits in that camp is watching, but I'm saying, you're a fucking exception, man. Stop it. Fucking confuse me with your intersex shit, okay? I love you. But yeah, so I just wanted to make it clear, right? So the non-binary, they are people who identify as neither man or woman, okay? Now, if you're a traditional Marxist or a traditional, fucking anyone who basically exists outside of this movement, okay, you see the difference, okay? You understand that if I could turn around and I'd say that I'm non-binary, which, to be honest, if I bought their philosophy and if I was in the cult, I probably would, right? I fit all of those sort of non-binary things, okay? I'm pretty masculine, right? But I also don't buy the fact that I am, using me as an example, I'm a woman and I have the right to I can be like loud and smart and swear and behave in a certain way. I can wear fucking what I want. I mean, I can do what I want. I can behave how I want, right? And that is independent of, it doesn't change the fact that I'm still a woman and I give birth and I have periods and all of those sorts of things, okay? So this is just one of those things where we need to understand that gender identity is not sex, biological sex, okay? Now, you'd think that this was a non-controversial view. Again, saying that you need a minute to process this, okay? Saying that sex is different from gender, right? B just commented and said, really? Non-binary just means you are an averagely complex human being. Yeah, we'll get to that. So it's another form of emo, right? And again, putting other stuff aside, putting the traditional definitions, I'm a big fan of making sure that things are clearly defined, because once you understand and you have a shared definition of things, usually you can come to an agreement. But a lot of the toxicity is really around the fact that I had no idea how many people didn't fucking understand how science works. And I had no idea how many people truly believed in the idea of a soul, right? Or a gender identity, okay? I'm shocked by that, okay? Even smart people believe that you can be born in the wrong body. I mean, evolution tells you that just can't happen, okay? It's just, you can deviate from norm, and there's, I don't like saying mutation, but I mean mutation in the classical sense. But for the most part, it amazes me just how many people believe it's just like horoscopes, right? What was it? Someone called it crotch astrology. Crotch astrology was I fucking laughed at that. That's how it's a bit like that, right? So all these people that fucking it's no coincidence that those who believe that Mercury goes in retrograde also believe in like moon gender, right? It's fucking okay. So anyway, again, the science is out on this, all right? So I'm one of those people where I'm open-minded. I believe that science is evolving and growing, and it's very important to understand that there is no real science on this because they also block research on it. Okay, look at Dr. Deborah So, who's a what is she? Fucking neuroscientist and researcher, getting fucking, like there's all these people where people have tried to research this, right, and try to validate this stuff. And they get platformed, they get bullied, they get harassed, okay? That's really important to understand. Now, like the science around people who try to do research or report findings that don't support the narrative are threatened, okay? And they're silenced. And it's just become so risky. Like I remember reading about a pediatrician, she's a pediatric endocrinologist, and she saw that there was an increase in puberty blockers and also saw an increase in certain cancers. She actually was afraid to ask if she could pursue that research because she didn't want, she was worried about losing her job, right? That's the reality that we live in, is these people, okay? Now, for anyone who's sort of misunderstanding this, I truly believe that we just need to fucking ease up and have a conversation. But we also need to accept the fact that this has been hijacked by a certain group of people. They're like Antifa, basically, of extremists. They're gradually losing more and more people. People are coming around, and that's where South Park fits in, okay? Because they just said there's got to be a point. I thought that Jessica Yaniv would highlight that. I think Rachel McKinnon did a good job at getting people to think. Women's sports seems to be a good battleground for this, but I don't know what it's going to take till people, and I think people like Sam Smith being shown to be sort of opportunistic, and there's lots of factors here. But I think that I'm curious to know how much information it's going to take for people to do that. So that's why I'm doing this video, because I think I'm fucking shit scared of doing this, right? The thing is, I could get banned from Twitter for even saying this shit on Periscope or YouTube. I could just get banned. And nothing that I'm saying, I'm actually just trying to explain the point of view. And so this is where it becomes kind of creepy Scientology. Like if you go against anything, right? And I'll get to Hillary Clinton on that. But if you go against even a fraction of what they're saying, you are fucking turned on. You are called a TERF. You are all of these things. So, okay. So I just wanted to give you some context, which is where we come. Again, I'm going to stay away from the, let's assume, okay, that everyone accepts your usual definition of transsexual. I do. I consider myself a trans ally. It was only when I realised that concealed that meaning, right? I'm generally inclusive of transsexual people. Okay, there's gender critical feminists that aren't, right, and that's okay because they can argue that. But I don't fit. I'm not in that camp. So everyone, again, I said this in my feminism video. People have different views, and as long as you can argue it, and as long as you can put a point across, go for it, okay? The problem is that only one side is dominating and the other side is being silenced, threatened, shut down, beaten up, harassed, no platformed, and fucking, it's toxic, okay? Now, there's a good chance that this would be taken down, okay? It's just one of those things. So for fairly reasonable things. And I'll show you that. I'll use Hillary Clinton because the threshold for TERF, right, is pretty fucking low. But we'll get there. So, now, what is a TERF? You might be asking, okay? TERF stands for trans exclusionary radical feminist. Okay. Now, there are a lot of people who use the word TERF in the way that it was originally designed. Okay. There are a lot of people who use it in its strictest definition. Okay. It still doesn't make any fucking sense because radical feminism excludes men. So you're not it's not trans exclusionary radical feminist. It's male exclusionary because radical feminism actually does include trans men, okay? So, because they're female bodied, right? Now, the premise of this, and this is why the toilets become the battleground, right? You know, this is why, okay, this is why rape shelters, prisons, toilets, this is why it seems stupid that we're talking about toilets, but it's not about the fucking toilets. As far as toilets go, I think that that's something that we can solve with design, engineering and design, and making sure that people are kept safe. That's a design problem, right? But it's a policy problem in terms of rape shelters, right? Because women, you know, like there's women-only rape shelters. And again, this isn't saying that all trans people are fucking rapists. It's just saying some can be, okay? Some are. And denying that reality, saying that never happens, you're not going to get anywhere, okay? And this is how we've gotten here, is with that denial. Sitting in denial, pretending that the fucking unicorns and rainbows and that everyone is fucking dancing around and twirling into fucking oblivion. That's not how the world works. Unfortunately, and I'm disappointed too. I'm an idealist. I like to think the best of people. I truly, truly do. But we need to talk about this issue, okay? Which is that there are some dangerous people out there. And it ain't the TERFs, and it ain't the feminists, okay? Now. All right. So I'm glad you could join me, Olivia, by the way. So now I'm just trying to, so the radical feminist point of view, okay? So let's break down trans exclusionary radical feminist. Now, radical feminist the reason why I'm trying to make classical feminist a thing is because I think the word radical has confusion, but it also, it has baggage attached to it because a lot of people think that radical feminist means rabid feminist or extremist. It's not. In radical feminism, radical means to get to the root, okay? So this is where patriarchy comes in as a concept, which is that patriarchy is linked to radical feminism because it's a system, okay? It is a system that has been designed, and the root cause is patriarchy, okay? So looking at so what we want to do is emancipate women from this stuff, make women fully autonomous citizens in their own right, okay? Not take over, all right? Just, again, I've talked about the idea of dominance and all that sort of stuff and male default. Talked about that before, so I won't go down that rabbit hole. But the premise of radical feminism is about analysis. It is not about actions or behavior, okay? So radical feminism just means get to the root, which is assessed through the lens of living in a patriarchy, which I have said before is not a sentient fucking monster that's coming to kill people. It's just, it's a phenomenon, okay? It's a design problem, okay? We need to redesign. Radical feminists want to think redesigning, right? When you think radical. So we want to redesign the world to be more inclusive, okay? That's the traditional definition. Now, so the definition itself is flawed anyway because we're not trans exclusionary necessarily, okay? Because we include trans men. What we do is exclude male-bodied people from hard-fought women's spaces, okay? So I won't go into too much of the history with that because that's like long. But, you know, over 100 years, women have fought for their own sports, their own spaces, their own safety. Like in the parts of the third world, we're still fighting for women's toilets. Like there's people, you know, like read again. I know I keep talking about this book and I'll put a link to it in the whatever, okay, wherever you are, which is Caroline Criado Perez's book, Invisible Women. that's really illuminating to understand patriarchy through a more logical lens, okay, this idea of male default. But so women exist sort of as a spin-off from the male default. So everything's designed around men, okay? And again, there's outliers, right? Again, it's not men are the enemy, this is just how it is. It's just been designed in men's favor. Okay. Now, again, class comes into that as well, because it's been also designed around the middle class. Okay. It's also, you know, like I talked about this in my business thing yesterday, which is that something simple as bill payments. Okay. It's designed around the nuclear family. Okay, everything is designed around the nuclear family. The nuclear family, for those that aren't familiar, is that idea, you know, your dad works, mum's at home, your 2.5 kids, your fence, your mortgage. Sorry, I knocked my screen. So, you know, and that's where you've got, so it's not just, so patriarchy is one aspect of that. And obviously this nuclear family feeds into the idea of the man as the head of the household, as the breadwinner, and the woman as the domestic provider of uncompensated, unpaid domestic labour. And so she's in charge of the children. And so that's patriarchy at work, because in order to, this is part of the Industrial Revolution. And again, I'm skimming like really, but as part of the Industrial Revolution, what we needed was men to go into the factories, work all day, someone to look after the children, and society was designed around that, okay? It's designed around people working 9 to 5. Like, that's another tension that we've got going, which is that it's just not designed around people who get paid erratically or, you know, have longer payment terms or anything like that. So that's where, you know, it's designed around people who get a weekly paycheck, right? I can't get a mortgage because I'm self-employed, because the whole system is designed around fucking, you know, 9 to 5. Again, that's just, so think about it as design, and it's the same thing, right? But now, when we're talking about, and again, heteronormativity, that's another one, which is that it's the nuclear family. Okay, it's not designed to support gay, lesbian, bi, and trans people. Okay, now, so what feminism does, right? What feminism does is it looks at those things, but we can't. Again, women can't save everybody, so we're just focused on women. Okay, again, and there's another thing there, which is whiteness, which I'm not even fucking getting into, because I'm just fucking whatever. That's someone else's battle. Okay, I'm an ally, whatever. So, you know, yeah. Again, in the third world, right? And in Saudi Arabia, I saw an article, okay, where they've actually registered feminism as a fucking terrorist group, right? These are still very real struggles, and that's what I want to talk about. So radical feminism, actually that anchors me back, which is that, you know, feminism is about those sorts of issues, which has always been traditionally about breaking that gender binary, right? Girls wear pink, girls don't work, girls do housework, girls have feelings, boys are tough, boys fight, boys do this, boys are aggressive. Those things, right, are the things that there's just, this is the conflict. Those are the very things that feminists, classical feminists, again, there's a difference in movements too, right? I would say that we're more in, I don't even like calling it feminism anymore. I think it's post-feminism, right? But liberal feminism started to make porn okay? It started to make, you know, all of these things, right? Traditionally, up until sort of the 80s and 90s, we all understood, right, what this was. I talked about intersectionality in other videos. You can look at that, okay? I explained that in the intersectionality calculator video, where this sort of veered off, right? Now, again, I'm not going to fucking put all of my thoughts into one video. I'm trying to get on to the other stuff. If you've got questions that you want me to just expand on a point, send me a question. I'm happy to talk about it, because I do get scatterbrained and I do wander off point, but I do know this stuff and I'm happy to explain my thoughts. I want us to all get along, and I want us to find a way forward, because I'm just fucking sick of this stuff. And I'm sick of this pack. It's actually the pack. I'm sick of this, and we just need to face facts. Okay. Now, So the meaning changed, right? From transsexual, you know, your tradition, again, in your mind, when you think trans person, you often think that it's a man in a dress, right? Let's be honest, okay? But someone who presents female has committed to living their life as female, has probably had surgery, even though that's none of our business, but they're on hormones, that sort of thing, right? The transgender umbrella has, oh, that's right, I was going back from about 15 minutes. The transgender umbrella incorporates, apparently, transsexuals, right? Which is what you think, the T, okay? But it also includes cross-dressers, okay? So think of Eddie Izzard. Eddie Izzard, cool, right? I don't think anyone had any problem with that. Eddie Izzard was a transvestite, right? Cross-dresser, cool, you do you, great, right? Still a man, still Eddie, okay? Cool. But now he's trans, okay? So it's a very wide spectrum up to and including, so you've got your transsexuals, then you've got your cross-dressers, okay? People who, and again, cross-dressing is one of those things where, you know, drag queens, again, some people, some radical feminists take issue with woman as a costume, for example, okay? I just go, well, fuck it, it's just clothes, whatever, but there is that idea that mocking women, and they're mocking, so there's two schools of thought there, which is that one, that it's mocking women, the other is that it's mocking the extremes of femininity. So it's kind of, there's two camps. I tend to sit more on the other side, which is that it's mocking the very thing that feminists are critical of. That's what it used to be anyway. Now it's become a little bit fucking peedy, right? This is the thing where it gets fucking weird. And you need to be aware of what's happening. Now, it's time to talk about autogynephilia. It also includes men who get off on, whose sexual fetish is to be a woman, okay? But not only it's basically living a fetish full time, okay? It also includes men who identify as a woman and have sissy fetishes, okay? It includes men who choose to identify as non-binary and get off on making people uncomfortable, right? And those exist. There are people, this is where I think, one of the things that I did like a long time ago was when I was writing my book that I wanted to write. It was like a fucked up romance, Mills and Boon parody. But I went into FetLife and I really just fucking went into a world that I didn't even know, right? But there are people out there who have fucking the weirdest of fetishes, and fetishes tend to, and it's when I talk about fetish, I'm not talking about a kink, okay, that they keep private. I'm talking about people who get off on dragging others into their fetish. So exhibitionists, you know, all those fucking peeping toms, flashes, you know, all of that sort of stuff, right? Now, again, I'm not equating all of them. I'm saying there's all these distinct groups. And then you've got your non-binaries, okay? And then you've got a separate group, which is women who identify as men, which has a completely separate thing to it. And I actually want to talk about that separately because it affects generally young women for different reasons, okay? Because a whole generation of girls that are feeling normal girl feelings, okay, and feeling like they don't fit in, might be like autistic, have been misdiagnosed or like their diagnosis missed, are being told that they're boys when they're not. They're just probably either lesbians or fucking awkward, okay? But that's a particular kind of thing, you know. Yeah, so, sorry, I got distracted reading Olivia's comment, because she said, and likewise, I see a lot of hurt in trans spaces about including cross-dressers and drag queens. Yes. And that's where I think the confusion lies, is that I think most radical feminists other than, there's just absolute people, and their job is to be the absolutes, right? Posey Parker, Megan Murphy, their job is to represent the consistent view that is with radical feminist views. They're radical feminists. They think how radical feminists think, but it doesn't mean we all don't understand, right? I hate the word nuance because it's been ruined, but there's grey here, right? But I think that what radical feminists are largely critical of is not the transsexuals, right? And people who actually legitimately have issues and they need support. We've talked about this in person, Olivia. But it's that umbrella, the umbrella people. Like Dave Chappelle calls them the alphabet people, right? They keep tacking on letters, right? And wanting more and more space. It's attracted a whole bunch of fucking Tumblr narcissist fucking children, and there is a social contagion here, and that's the problem, is that it's being co-opted and the words changed. So I'm going to move. I know that this is a long stream, but I think tell me if you think this is actually a valuable education. But what I want to do is say, okay, so TERF stands for trans exclusionary radical feminist. Okay. Now, there are people, I honestly think that they're being disingenuous because I think they know exactly what they're doing, right? TERF has a strict meaning. The meaning is shit anyway. I broke it down just recently, as you saw. But it was coined in 2008, right? And it was originally Wikipedia. I don't trust this because, trans rights activists, and I'll explain the difference between trans rights activists and trans people, which are different, okay? So basically, it was originally applied to a minority of radical feminists, okay? But it was still false because radical feminists include trans men, okay? Espousing sentiments that other feminists consider transphobic. Okay, there's that fucking word, okay? And this is where I'll get to I'll come back to the South Park thing as well, okay? So such as the rejection of the assertion that trans women are women, okay? Again, that's when I talked about the difference between gender and sex, you'll understand where that comes into play, right? Which is that they're not. Okay? You can't change sex. You can't change physical sex. Science hasn't fucking proven anything there. It's just you're changing gender, okay? You are presenting as feminine or you are presenting as masculine, and you are having, for all intents and purposes, you are living as a woman, right? Or as a man. That doesn't mean that you are biologically changing sex. And this is the thing that fucking surprised me because I thought this was an uncontroversial view. It turns out there's a lot of fucking dummies out there who literally believe that you can walk into some sort of fucking machine and change it, that you get injections and your chromosomes change. Right? Again, whatever, okay? I'm not just being funny. And also just opposition, and this is where it becomes, you can see the concealment that's going on because I can explain some of these things. The exclusion of trans women, which, yeah, we exclude men, male-bodied people, okay? And I will explain why that is, okay? Because in reality, we're in practical terms, if you look like a chick on the outside, whatever the fuck that means, no one's going to bat an eyelid, okay? That's the thing, is that if you're standing alongside someone who presents well and presents fucking fine, and I understand that transition periods are awkward and all of those things, but that's just what you get. It's just what happens. It's just reality. You're going to go, like if my pancreas start to fail, I'm going to be yellow for a bit and I'm going to have to explain why I look yellow. It's just, I know that's a really fucking stupid analogy, but I'm just saying it is what it is. Okay? Right? I had surgery, my hair fell out. When you have cancer, your hair falls out. You're going to have to tell people because it's fucking visible and everyone knows. Pretending you haven't lost your hair is not fair. Like demanding that everyone pretend that you haven't fucking lost your hair, that's part of the problem, okay? It's that demand that you're making. So anyway, fucking hell, Tay, whatever. So, yeah, it is, right? And it's just one of those things. You're going to go through all of that awkwardness, and that's just reality. And that's not It's just how it is. Okay, it's a shitty card to be dealt. Okay, but if you're going down this path now, also, okay, I actually needed to go back. Traditionally, with transsexuals, right, with transitioning, and so you've got social transitioning and medical transitioning. Okay, and and this is just what I understand. Okay, sorry, fucking text came up. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, but traditionally under the DSM-4, which was DSM-4, gender dysphoria was the clinical requirement for transition. Now, gender dysphoria was considered a mental disorder. This is probably what most people understand to be true. And again, like, it's not a problem that it's a mental disorder. We need to be fucking destigmatizing that in general. People, whatever, okay? And this is where it becomes sort of a bit opposite. It's like, well, on one hand, you want to remove the stigma of mental illness, but on the other hand, you want to remove this from mental illness because of your own, like, stigma. It's very weird, but it just doesn't make any sense, okay? So, but anyway, so traditionally, if you were suffering from gender dysphoria, you'd go through sort of treatment, you'd go through psychology, you go through counselling, you would have to socially transition and live as the opposite gender for 2 years, sometimes 3. Okay, you'd have to make steps, right, to make sure that you were sure, to make sure that you were able to do this, able to handle it, all of those sorts of things. Okay, now, and also surgical transition was always considered, or transition was considered a last resort for people whose gender dysphoria was unresolved. Okay, so other aspects like autism or other mental health conditions, other comorbidities or environmental factors, or all of those things were ruled out first. Okay, that's what they call gatekeeping. Now, some gatekeeping's good. Okay, and as Mark said in our videos, like, have you never met crazy people? There's a lot of fucking crazy people out there, okay? And that's, I think, a lot of what is that we have a tendency to assume that everyone is like us and that everyone is reasonable, and that just because we wouldn't transition for no reason, that there aren't fucking nutters who won't use this as a tool, okay? Or use this to get back at somebody else. And that comes back to the South Park episode, right? That's why it's very clever, because it does show that, okay? Now, there are fucking evil fuckers out there. There's crazy people, okay? We just need to agree that there's crazy people out there. Just go to a shopping fucking trolley bay when you're at, like, shopping cart tray when you're outside the supermarket, and you'll see that there's 2 rows and there's one for the full trolley, one for the half trolley, right? Most people get it right, okay? Most people manage to figure it out, that it's half trolley there, full trolley there. But there's always that one fuck who puts it in upside down, backwards, and it fucks it up for everyone else. This is what I'm talking about. Okay, we need to design policy around the people who don't give a fuck about other people. All right? Anyway, I went on a tangent. So, TERF. So it stands for, so this, again, the reason this is loaded is because even the definition in Wikipedia, right, looks like it's a reasonable and academic definition, okay? Right? Like, it's got opposition to the word, right? But, trans, inclusive, cisgender, radical, feminist blogger. What a time to be alive. All our pieces of flair. Can't that just be Taya? Aren't we given names for a reason? Isn't that to help us fucking, like, categorize ourselves? Anyway. What a fucking taxonomy of people is weird. Okay, anyway. So where are we? So TERF basically is, it's expanded, right? So basically it's gotten to the point where, opposition to transgender rights legislation. Now that's actually not true, okay? What it is it's opposition to self-identification, okay? So when I was talking about the traditional idea of needing to, as a last resort, needing counselling, needing, all of that sort of stuff, needing to socially transition for a number of years to make sure that you were sure, all of those sorts of things, right? That legislation is the thing that they're trying to change, which is that basically if you say you are, then you are. And can you see? And again, I'm not saying that there's other things, which is, I'm not going to get into gatekeeping because I think that some gatekeeping is needed. I really do. Right? When I lost my stomach, I had to see a psychologist and a dietitian. Like, that's just, again, you just got to be aware that this is how the world works, man. It's not like, no one's fucking oppressing you because they want you to have an appointment to make sure that you know the implications of what you're taking on. It's just fucking sensible. But again, it's been under-resourced and all those sorts of things. So again, separate issues. I'm not going to talk about, I'm not saying we should defund it or whatever. I'm just saying that it's got to be fucking middle ground, all right? But so radical feminists aren't necessarily opposed to transgender rights legislation, okay? What they're opposed to is the conflict between the gender and sex. So this is a problem in law, which if they're actually just in conflict with each other, okay? Now, and nobody's listening. It's not about excluding anybody. It's just that they're in conflict and fucking nobody understands, because people are dumbasses and don't understand how legal fucking interpretation works. They just run with their feelings, okay? Now, the fact is that women have fought hard for spaces based on safety and their physical safety, okay? There's people who, men are like, again, not all men, but a lot. Okay, all of those fetishes that I was talking about. One of those is spying on women, putting cameras in toilets, okay, making women uncomfortable, flashing, okay. These are the kinds of men that do fucking anything to get their jollies, okay, and they will identify as a woman, okay, in order to do that. That's the core, right? And women's sports, right? It's like, well, okay. So, so basically there's two schools of thought, which is that they sit there and they go, well, a TERF, that's just a definition. And it's like, well, no, it's not. It's a dog whistle for violence, and I'll show you what that is. So basically you see it here. If you've been reading the screen, you'll see it's like, well, critics of the word TERF point to its use in insults and violent rhetoric. And it's not just insults and violent rhetoric, okay? Megan Murphy had her event crashed by men, okay, yelling and screaming at her. And the other thing is that there's a number of sort of males who are using this little loophole online to get away with abusing women, okay? So that's basically what's going on, is that there's a bunch of people using the word TERF. It is a slur. It is used to incite violence, and it's not just insults, right? See, the thing is that people are making this look like it's just, hurt feelings. It's not. This is escalating, right? There's people, Graham Linehan famously, right, had to talk to police, right? This is considered hate speech, right? Saying that men aren't women is considered hate speech it's considered transphobic, right? And it's not transsexual phobic, it's transgender phobic, right? Again, this transgender movement has a large portion of fetishists, a large portion of pedophiles, and a large portion of, people who really shouldn't be attached to a legitimate social issue, okay? And that's been the whole fucking problem, because those people, funnily enough, hate women, right? They hate women, and they attack women online. They bring out the baseball bats, okay? And I'll show you the kinds of threats that women get based on the word TERF. And the threshold for being a TERF is to merely just say the things that I've been saying today, okay? Completely reasonable, rational questions. Or needing a minute, or acknowledging that older people might take a minute to try and understand this changing fucking scene, right? Or suggesting that South Park, or suggesting that a 6'3" muscly dude shouldn't be competing against women in women's cycling, okay? So that is the threshold, right? But the threshold's actually getting even lower. And I want to talk about J.K. Rowling, right? J.K. Rowling is apparently now, is a TERF. And do you know what the threshold for that was? She followed Magdalene Burns, okay, on Twitter. And that gave them impetus and permission to harass, defame, threaten. For all the people, they just keep claiming that radical feminists and Nazis are dog whistlers, right? You can't, they've called themselves transgender. They're basically named the same way as fucking Antifa, right? I am a transsexual fucking ally and intersex ally and people who are legit, right? But no, your fetish isn't my fucking problem, okay? Anyway, so I'm a fetish exclusionary. I'm a FERF. I'm a fetish excluding radical feminist. And this is where liberal feminism went wrong, because liberal feminism started getting into this fucking shaming nonsense, right? So you must, don't shame the sex worker. Don't shame the porn star. Porn is fine, right? And then you get into kink shaming. Kink shaming is a problem. You shouldn't shame people's kinks. And that was the fucking loophole where they got in with feminists, right? This is not feminism, okay? Because the vast majority of men's kinks involve hurting women and humiliating women, okay? Just so you know, all right? Now, that's not feminism. Prostitution. Prostitute can be feminist, but it's no, okay? Porn is not feminist. It supports sex trafficking, okay? The individual porn star could be a feminist, okay? That's fine. I'd be curious to know why, but, but it's not feminism, okay? It's just not. And when you say excluding men from feminism isn't feminism, then you look like an idiot, okay? You look like a fucking moron, because it's literally the definition of feminism. Anyway, so there's this whole, I actually recommend you read this if you want to understand some of this stuff, but I wouldn't trust Wikipedia, because what happens is that, one thing you need to know about trans rights activists is that they're very organised, very passionate, very fucking committed to destroying fucking the reputation of people, and highly fucking mobilised and very fucking clever. I said this in my stream the other day, which is that they're extremely fucking clever, and I'm actually impressed. In terms of sort of Goebbels' big lie and the execution of a big lie, and then sort of infiltrating organisations with this fucking unthinking, unscientific fucking cult shit that nobody is thinking about, okay, that completely eradicates everything that we know to be true until yesterday. To quote Douglas Murray in The Madness of Crowds, he said, everything we knew was true yesterday is now not true, okay? And if you ask for a minute, you're a TERF, which is what I'll get to Hillary Clinton. If you ask for fucking clarification, or you set a boundary, or you say, no, I don't want fucking perverts in my space, right? And I don't want perverts in my space, but it's not about, you take a logic class. I'm not saying all fucking trans people are perverts. I'm saying some are, okay? Here's some stats, okay? Which is that after transition, the percentage of the propensity to do violent and sexual offences remains the same, okay? It remains the same as when you were a man, okay? So on average, the percentage you don't, it doesn't change, okay? Karen White, okay, rapist, went to a women's prison because she identified as a woman, reoffended, subsequently raped a woman. This is happening, okay? And again, I'm not unsympathetic to the plight of the law, again, I know in a prison, the law-abiding, I'm just saying, just stick with me, peaceful, law-abiding person who just wants to get on with their life, and I don't want people persecuted because of that. But at the same time, the Disability Act covers these things. If you're willing to accept that this is a mental health condition, as it was, and the Disability Act and all of those things, those, the current legislation covers that. Anyway, you can't shit on women's rights, and you know, and this is I think this is part of the objection that a lot of that I had as well, which is this idea that men's fetishes, and again, I talked in a previous video about how men dominate every space that they're in over women, okay? Whether they mean to or not, they just take over, okay? Because it's designed for them, it's made for them, it favors them, okay? And women have fought for these spaces in order to be protected from men who try to do that, okay? Now, we have to face the fact that I think it's about 80, you know, I don't know what the exact percentage is, but it's high. Again, not transsexuals, transgenders are autogonophilic. They have fetishes. They have sissy fetishes. Have a look at some of those fucking forums, man. Like, they're fucking, it's like, yeah, okay. You do you, but it's not my problem, okay? I don't have to accept your fetish in my face, all right? And I know that. And what they do is then, by me saying something like that, they say, well, that's what homophobes said. They just don't do it in my face. And it's like, no, it's not the same thing. Okay? All right? So anyway, okay. And so they are very good at making these false equivalencies that don't exist, which is that the T have piggybacked off the LGB and, you know, ooh, Olivia said, I was actually meaning to chat to you about something pretty nasty I've run across. You want to talk about that here? Let me know if you do, and we'll you just keep going, and I'll read it out and deal with it. That's fine. It'll be interesting. Now, and also this idea that, you know, the LGBTIQ2A plus fucking whatever, the alphabet people, right, includes people who get off dressing up as animals, furries, okay? It includes, yeah, anyway, let's not get into that shit. But I'm just saying this is something that we have, even if, okay, the percentage is about 80%, but even if it was 2%, we'd have to pay attention to it, okay? You can't just put your head in the sand and sit around and pretend that everything is fine because the world is fucking, like I said before, fucking unicorns and rainbows. It's not how the world works, okay? They've got the new LGBT flag that's got the fucking picture of the trans and whatever's fucking taking over the rainbow, eating the rainbow flag and penetrating the rainbow flag. Again, they're good at accidentally telling the truth, but this is what's happening, okay? It's a takeover by fetishists, all right? But yeah, I'd love to have a chat with you, actually. We should catch up, actually. It's about time we did. Because I'm still trying to, so... anyway, sorry, Olivia, for those that are listening with this, is that it'll derail from what I'm doing right now, but which is more important, but I'll chat to me later today about it. So yes, we'll chat about that. Okay. Interesting, because Olivia's going through her journey at the moment, and so I'm making sure that I stay on the right side and am a good ally and still critical, okay? Because I wouldn't do anything that I consider to be hurtful to people that I love. So, and so anyway, but what I want to say is what happens when you get called a TERF, right? Online or whatever, okay? And it can be, the bar is low, and like I said, J.K. Rowling followed a gender critical feminist who subsequently passed away, right, on Twitter, and she got TERFed, right? And what I want to show you is some of the harassment. Now, this is a fairly old site, but this has been going on for years and years and years and years. And I want you to know that this is now escalated offline, right? So any woman, for any reason, okay, if you want to see Salem witch trials happening again, okay, think about the witch trials, right? This is what's happening, all right? So go through some of these. These are older screenshots, but it's pretty much the same. But you need to understand that now women's events, we got actually I think it's today, women's Feminism 2020, where in New Zealand they have shut down the venue. They've attempted to get the event cancelled several times. They have harassed. They scream threats. There was a picture of a woman with a guillotine You know, like simulating guillotines if you ever fucking needed to be more terrified, right? Because that's what they fucking did in the revolution. And the TERFs are first, right? Not funny. They simulate Handmaid's Tale. One of their funniest things to say is that TERFs get the wall, right? Okay? This is the thing that I'm talking about. Violent men with fetishes who are using this loophole, right, to harass, defame, intimidate, right, and scare. I'm scared talking about it, right? It's just, I'm glad that I don't have a huge audience, but it's only a matter of time, okay? They use Twitter, they are the ones that game Twitter's algorithm in order to get you banned, right? So you lose your livelihood. They will call your workplace. They will call your family's workplace. They will call your family. They will call your friends. They will dogpile you relentlessly. They will bully you. They will turn up to your house if they find out that's happened, okay? They will leave dead rats on the door of your shelter like they did with Vancouver Rape Relief, okay? And this is real. This threat is real. And all it is all you need to do is suggest that maybe some sanity needs to prevail here, okay? I'm hoping that people watch this because it is actually quite important. And I'm hoping that my heart being in the right place comes through because I'm just trying to explain this to people, which is that being called transphobic is a very low threshold. Everyone is a TERF, okay? This isn't... So when you see someone saying they're a TERF, right, fucking run. Because they're either dumb, like the NPCs, right? They're not really participating and thinking, right? Or they are someone who will turn on you the second you say something they don't like. And you don't want to be associated with that shit, okay? And for the smart people who know this, right, that I know, who still use that word, you need to stop because it's escalated, it has changed, okay? It's escalating to real violence, very similar to the way that Antifa are using, alt-right, all those things, right, or fascist in order to justify their extreme hate campaigns and violent behaviour, okay? Not okay. Absolutely not okay. But I just want you to know that there are women who feel fear for their lives. Okay, and there are prominent trans rights activists who are different. They're not, again, they don't speak for the entirety of the trans community. I want you to know, right, that trans rights activists hate transsexuals as well. They call them true scum. Okay, so if you've had the operation, okay, and you agree that you're a man, not a woman, right? So let's say you're a post-op male to female transsexual. You're true scum. And you get called a TERF and you are threatened. So they're actually not even on side with their own movement, right? If you are a researcher who wants to find out the long-term effects of puberty blockers or the long-term effects of, giving hormones, cross-sex hormones, right? You are deplatformed, harassed, threatened. Any avenue they can get you, they'll get you, okay? If you are someone who just goes, hey, hang on a minute, which Hillary Clinton has done, and I'll talk about. I think it's important that I show you that example at the end because it gives you context to show you that how dangerous and scary it is because literally everyone is a TERF, okay? Which means that they're coming for all of us. Or if we all stand up and go, no, fuck off, all right? This makes no sense, and this is why South Park is really good and important because I'm hoping that enough people see that. I think I've said this in another stream, which is that I kind of want the Olympics to allow this, right? Because I want that worldwide exposure where you see a bearded man who fucking is identified into the competitions and you're doing gymnastics and the big old fucking hairy balls. The whole world will lose their fucking minds. Okay, maybe that, and I said this before, if Yaniv hasn't peaked, if McKinnon hasn't peaked, if everything that, and these violent threats like TERF is, I'll go through some of these, if these things aren't enough to make you go, hey, then you're a lost cause. You're in a cult, right? But I'm hoping that there's part of me, because I like funny things. There's part of me that sort of wants to have bollocks and fucking hairy dudes doing synchronized swimming on the world stage just to see what the reaction's going to be, because it's going to have to get to that point. I think that's just, it's people are losing their minds. It's not like. Okay. Anyway, so the issue with transgender rights, we don't have an issue with transgender rights, okay? We have an issue with the legislation and the laws that are in conflict with conflict with women's hard-fought rights to spaces and autonomy and bodily autonomy, right? And also, and also just the idea of self-ID, that you just can say whatever you are, right? I'm not even going to get into the fucking 375 genders, because that's just a whole other fucking thing. But I'm just talking about so there's a number of facets to this movement. So I'm just going to show you some of this stuff. So I'm going to go through the main headings. So threats of violence, harassment and abuse. So now I want you to know that this, right, is supported by Twitter. They've gotten better, right? But they still allow this to happen, and it's about 50-50 on whether, if you report it as a threat, that they will act on it. Okay, so anybody who they deem a TERF, and I'll show you, and like I said, the threshold's pretty fucking low, right? Is this, right? This is the stuff, right? Because this is how women behave, right? Girls can choke on my girl dick. Yeah, that's how women fucking conduct themselves. All TERFs need to cease existing, right? Just keep looking. And this is 2016. It's escalated a whole lot more since then. Is there? Yeah. Kill all TERFs. Enjoy yeah. Okay. So there we go. That's pretty much what you deal with. Our SWERF is a sex worker exclusionary radical feminist. So if you don't accept prostitution, you get the SWERF one, right? And that's another fucking dog whistle to make them, to make violent men who want to promote porn and graphic porn and choking women and coming on women's faces and all that fucking terrible humiliation of women. And if you question it, you're a SWERF, and it's the same fucking thing, okay? So if you're a SWERF and a TERF, which I am, you're fucked, okay? Nice, isn't it? Funny, hilarious, isn't it? This is the reality of what's going on, right? Change TERF to witch and you'll start to see weird-ass parallels, eh? Okay? And Twitter allows this to happen. And any woman who defends themselves against this gets banned, generally. They're getting better, but yeah. Erasing female biology. This is the funny shit, okay? So this is what they're doing. If you've seen uterus havers or bleeders or that shit, here you go, right? This, right? A uterus, this is batshit. Stop fucking implying that only women menstruate and that all women have vaginas and that everyone with breasts is a woman. No, we're not implying it. It's true, fuckwit. It's a fact. Okay? But if you say that, you get the threats that I showed you before, okay? And again, I'm going to emphasize, those threats have now expanded into real life. This thinking has infected organisations, okay? I use the Witwer as an example, where they opened up the rewards to women and women who identify as women. So thus making the whole fucking organisation null and void, because IT is dominated by men. So good job. I need to resign. I keep forgetting. But yes, look. Right? Someday I'm going to be rich enough to buy an abortion for any uterus bearer that wants one. They're foul, right? And these aren't fucking, some of them are bots, but most of them are people, okay? That's erasing female biology. this was the one that piqued me in Jezebel, which was centering trans women. So every time you were having a feminist conversation, make sure that the trans woman was at the center, okay? So I'll gloss over this one. But again, if you object to this, if you say, oh, well, maybe all voices matter and maybe you just one outlying voice and you should just, maybe you're a man and maybe you haven't lived as a woman, which is what Hillary said, you're a TERF and you get the violent threats, right? Here we go, right? And if you don't, you're not a feminist. That's their favourite one, is it's not my feminism, it's not feminism, it's post-feminism. It's fucking post-truth feminism. It's got no basis in anything. You don't know what feminism means, okay? Now, and also the fact that, I don't know, I think we've had about 8 trans awareness, fucking every day is Trans Awareness Day at the moment, and I've got more awareness days than anyone else. Anyway, watch Rose of Dawn's channel. She talks about that. Rose of Dawn is great. Rose of Dawn is a transsexual woman from the UK who breaks down a lot of the sort of lunacy and the more crazy side of this, and she's very much a great resource and great source of information, as is Blair White as well. She's great. Notice I say she without thinking. There's a clue there, right? Because there's no dissonance, okay? I don't exclude trans. I said she, okay? Cotton ceiling, okay? The cotton ceiling. Lesbian women must consider trans women as potential sexual partners or they're transphobic and a TERF. So if you say no to penis, whether they have transitioned or not, if you say no to their girl dick, which they really like threatening women with, by the way, they get away with it. You're a TERF. You're the bigot. Okay? That should worry you. Because that sounds an awful lot like rape threats, doesn't it? Funny that. How convenient. So if you make laws that make it easy for any fucking man who hates women to identify as a woman in order to get away with criminal fucking offences, things that would be criminal offences in any other situation, like rape threats, right? Loophole. That's why everyone is a TERF, because I don't think anybody sensible agrees with this, okay? Now, one more thing. There's, what the fuck? There's a few of these, but whatever. But have a look at this. There's lots of stuff. I'll put links. So what I want to do is that all Hillary Clinton said, in light of everything that I've said today, okay, is that trans issues pose a legitimate concern for women. Hateful, isn't it? I mean, whatever you've got to say about Hillary Clinton, she's, like, whatever. I'm critical of her as well. But, okay, Hillary Clinton, I'm going to read this out. So this was published on out.com, okay? I'll put links in the notes. Which is Hillary Clinton has continued her unlikely TERF rebrand this week. See? They use, and they know full well what is underneath this, okay? This should worry you, which is that they're normalising this slur that has threats and violence and unpersoning. It's Orwellian, right? It's crazy, okay? Trans rights activists are not fighting for trans rights. They're blocking research. They're fucking removing all of the gatekeeping. They're basically a movement of men who dominate, and of course they ignore trans men as well, right? But and they ignore detransitioners. They ignore everybody else. It's just a lobby group of autogynephilic men pushing for all legal protections for women and children to be removed so they can do whatever the fuck they want when they want, okay? That's the reality, and if you object to that, you are called a TERF and you are subjected to threats, okay? If that doesn't worry you, then fuck, I don't know how to get through to you, okay? I don't know how to get through to you, because that means you're in a cult, because I sit there and I go, I think anybody with any modicum of common sense would stop using the word TERF and they would call out people who use it. Okay? It's not okay. All right, it's a linguistic trick, it's a psychological trick, and it's a dog whistle for violence and threats and attacks. And I have been called a TERF, I have been subjected to abuse, I have been subjected to threats, and I legit sit here going, I don't want to make this video because I think I might get fucking banned from Twitter and banned from YouTube and banned from all these places and deplatformed. And, you know, at any point the pylon can hit me and they can show up at my house. Okay, they could call my clients and destroy my business. That's what's happening. Okay, wake up. Wake up. And that's not you trans people. You know I love you. I don't like perverts and fetishists, okay? I am a trans ally. I'm just not an ally for pervs, okay? And criminals and rapists who are using you to get what they want, okay? Anyway, so let's get through the article. So, Hillary Clinton has continued her unlikely TERF rebrand this week by claiming that trans issues pose a legitimate concern for cisgender. I hate that word. That's another thing that they do. Again, see, dominate, right? So they everybody, 99.9% of people, right, of women or people, men and women, we're othered because we are now cisgender. And what they do is they attach privilege within the intersectionality ladder so that we are cis and hetero and white and normal, and basically that's just a way of just shutting people out. So you should object to the word cis as well if you fucking have any problem with this, because that's a linguistic, again, language changes thoughts and language has power, and once you can make one concession, you're in, okay? Don't give a fucking inch, okay? We all know what's going on here. Okay, I'm not cis. Okay, I'm a woman, and that's cool. Thank you. Now, me woman, you trans man, you man. Fucking simple. Okay? Good. So, first of all, Hillary Clinton said, we must be sensitive to transphobia. True. Actual transphobia, yes, right? I agree. But when you look at how low the bar for transphobia is, right? And I'll show you that which is basically in South Park. Watch South Park as well, which is where basically objecting to this fucking massive wrestling guy competing in women's sports, beating the shit out of women. And he went, oh, hang on a minute, there might be a problem here. What are you, transphobe? Getting obviously violently in their face, going, what are you, transphobe? You're going to fight me? What are you, transphobe? Acting like a dude, right? Exactly. That's exactly how it works, right? Coercion, threats, intimidation, and, you know, so I want you to know I'm tremendously brave by doing this, okay? Good. So, all Hillary Clinton said, we'll get to it now. An hour and a half in, but I knew this would be long because I wanted to explain some of how this works, right? So, all Hillary Clinton said was, I do think there is a legitimate concern about women's lived experience and the importance of recognising that, and also the importance of recognising the self-identification of transgender people, she said. This is all relatively new. People are still trying to find the language for it. Okay? She's a TERF now, see? And I'll show you. I really don't like sharing fucking articles from Jezebel because they've gone off the rails. I used to like reading Jezebel, but it's just become Mean Girls, man. But I'm just going to, because guess what? Hillary Clinton is a TERF now. Okay? I think in the right mindset, this can be understood. Right? She's not saying anything. But the way they react, right? You'd think that it was basically death to anybody who fucking identifies as like what? It's just like, what the fuck? Yes, men are socialized differently from birth. They don't live in a woman like this. We have different lived experiences. We experience life differently. We are sexualized. We are oppressed. We are dominated, and the world does not catered for us. The world isn't designed around us. And the problem is that now you've got a bunch of men identifying as women who expect that the world should be designed for them because that's what they're fucking used to, and they don't realize that that's not what being a woman is. You get it? And then when women say no, we're not allowed to. How is that not male dominance? Basically, it's a form of male dominance, and that's why people say that it's misogyny in a dress, okay? It's the same fucking shit. Rape threats, misogyny, fucking taking over spaces, telling women to shut up, and when they don't shut up, giving them a backhander, okay? That's exactly how the trans rights activists are moving, and this will escalate. This will escalate. Like any other domestic violence relationship, this stuff escalates further, and you will have deaths, you will have fucking more violence, and you will have women killed, okay? That's how it goes. This pattern works, okay? And again, this is not all trans people, but this is how predators act. This is how violent men act, and violent men have attached themselves to this movement. Okay, so when Sunday Times reporter Decca Aitkenhead asserted that there are women from earlier generations who may be uncomfortable sharing a locker room or dressing room with a transgender woman, Hillary Clinton, the 72-year-old, was said to have nodded vigorously in response. So she nodded, and now there's all this stuff, right? And she said, I would say that. Absolutely yes. So to even acknowledge that it might be a bit uncomfortable, right? That's a high crime with the church or the cult, okay? High crime. You get this word. All right? And of course they go into this fucking, it's a boon to conservatives, and it's like how it's now alt-right, fucking whatever, fuck off. But basically, Hillary Clinton from Jezebel, I love their tagline, by the way, a supposedly feminist website. Again, accidentally speaking the truth as always. They think they're being ironic, and I fucking, just like, no. Hillary Clinton and the TERF trap. Okay? We'll go back here. Let's go to this, right? Hillary Clinton, so basically a few months back, Hillary Clinton, someone asked, here we go. Let's go to the first bit. So this is the same question, right? So transphobic, whatever. Okay. So what I find funny is just really funny, which is asked if someone with a beard and a penis can ever be a woman. The phrasing of this question, which parrots common transphobic and fear-mongering rhetoric of phantom hirsute men, they're not phantom hirsute men. It's happening all the time. And this is part of the problem, is that they're in denial that this happens, but it happens every fucking day. And this is why the South Park episode, and we'll talk about, Rachel McKinnon, right? Literally. Just won the World Cycling Championship, okay? Zuby went in and identified as what is the women's world weightlifting champion, okay? Jessica Yaniv, okay? Karen White. They can't keep saying that never happens. It happens. And if it's not about how much, it's almost like they want it to happen to a million women before this happens. It's like one is too many. One is a failure of policy. Even if it's one, you should care about this, okay? So that's why I'm fucking fed up, because one woman's life is just as important as 100 women's lives. And how it's almost like it's 100 women. What's the ratio here? One trans woman's feelings, right? Or one bloke's feelings. How many women, is the acceptable collateral damage? This is what I'm going to ask. Like around Jessica Yaniv, that was probably about at least 1,000 people affected by this. Okay, when you add in fucking the family, the businesses, the journalists that got fucked over, Megan Murphy, Twitter, all these people. This person is a fucking nuclear bomb on women. But one man's feelings matter more than that, all of those women, and that's what we need to start thinking about. Okay. And maybe that's just because I tend to be utilitarian in my views. But I'm just saying, how many... I'm genuinely curious to see just what the actual number is for one man's feelings. Okay? So I'm curious to know. We should keep count. We should start calculating that ratio to see like how many women's lives and young girls and kids need to be fucking sterilized and abused and fucking mutilated. What the actual cost is around one man's feelings. And I'm being deliberately quiet there because I think that's food for thought. So anyway, what I'm saying is hate speech right now, apparently, but okay, technically, and that's the problem. It's not. It's an actual objection, and it's a rhetorical question, and it is just, that's how it is, okay? Even if, like, absolutely, even if I bought the whole transgender thing that if you say you are, okay? At what point does the impact on more people matter more, okay? And that's worth thinking about, all right? Again, I'm not unsympathetic to any of this stuff, but the meanings have changed and it's careful who you align yourself with, okay? Because what they will do, and I'll talk about ContraPoints at some point, which is that even if you are trans, even if you are on their side, eventually they will turn on you. The non-binaries have now turned on ContraPoints and made her life a living fucking hell. They are a pack. And they have power and they are taking over. Just fucking start saying no to these fuckwits. Okay? Because we need your help. Women need your help. I need your help in order to even just continue to stay on these platforms. Okay? They can't ban everybody. All right? They only ban us because people stay quiet, because they're afraid of being banned. But if enough people do, things will reach a critical mass and, we can get back to some fucking sanity. All right? So anyway. So Hillary took the question as an opportunity. So the journalist asked her if asked a legitimate question, whether a dude with a beard could get, should have access. And Chelsea, of course, responded with a yes, because Chelsea gets it. She knows. She's fucking whatever, right? Chelsea towed the line. She's wonderful, right? Hillary, okay, boomer, right? Hillary, however, took the question as an opportunity to muse about how the issue is one which she is just learning about, okay? She was honest about it. Her tweets about trans rights beginning in 2015 and her support for a State Department rule change allowing trans people to change their gender on their passports with a doctor's note, notwithstanding. Okay? Hillary said, I'm according to Aitkenhead's account, so they love their secondhand information, right? I hear that they're a TERF, right? That's not even fucking documented, right? Secondhand information. I'm just learning about this. It's a very big generational discussion because this is not something I grew up with or ever saw. Okay? She added, it's going to take a lot more time and effort to understand what it means to be defining yourself internally. Yeah? Right? This is the kind of thing that people get arrested for saying is hate speech. Just so you know, okay? Because if you don't believe that you can define your biology with a thought, if you believe that boys who are more feminine, and remember, not female, feminine boys, because they like feminine things, is because they're really a girl, rather than a boy who likes feminine things, and it's completely fucking regressive and sexist, okay? To tell boys that they only like boy things and girls that they only like girl things, right? Then you're a TERF too, okay? Now, the reason I say this is because I know the majority of people fucking agree with me, but they're too fucking afraid. Don't be afraid. So anyway, so Hillary's obviously aware of what's going on in the UK with the Gender Recognition Act. Gender reform, gender recognition, I can't remember. So she said a lot of British feminists, now they're actually in that battleground, people are starting to turn around and go, hey, hang on a minute, we need to think about this, because of a hard-fought, long campaign a battleground. It's been a fucking shit fight, right? In Scotland and in the UK and in, well, Canada as well. And she said, a lot of British feminists of Hillary's generation, read TERFs, see? Anybody. So that's basically like, oh, okay, boomer, dismiss everything, right? How is that? That's not an argument. That's a fucking slur. And it's, so anybody who disagrees and is over fucking 30 gets, okay, boomer, TERF, Nazi, bigot. See this for what it is, okay? It's revolting and disrespectful, and they're getting power. So read TERFs. Have a problem with the idea that a lesbian who doesn't want to sleep with someone who has a penis is transphobic. And that these British feminists are uncomfortable with people who are physically male. Yeah. Okay. Uncomfortable, sorry, I didn't finish the sentence. Uncomfortable with people who are physically male being in single gender spaces such as women's shelters. Not single gender, single sex. Okay? But anyway, this is how low the threshold is for being a TERF, by the way. Is actually fucking like understanding reality. Okay? And understanding that men like to beat women up, and men like to kill women, and men like to harass women, and men like to fucking do anything that they can do to make women's life a living hell. Okay? Not all men, but enough. Okay? And if you want proof that one man's hurt feelings is more important than 100 fucking hurt women, here you go. Okay? In fact, I think it's actually more like 1,000 or 100,000 women. So when you look at the statistics. Okay? So anyway, yeah, so Olivia actually pointed out, sorry, my eye wandered and I was focused on the article, but Olivia commented earlier, for those that are listening, which I think is very important, case in point, an actual trans person, right, can be accused of being a TERF, right? Blair White's accused of being a fucking TERF, right? Rose of Dawn, Miranda Yardley, right? Famous Miranda, actually look up Miranda Yardley, right, and what happened to her, okay? Because she said she's biological male. I'm not sure what her pronouns are, actually. I think she yeah, anyway. If I have used the wrong ones, I apologise. But people, yeah, it's just a pack of people, ContraPoints, right, been called a TERF by this pack of children from Tumblr who fucking don't understand how the law works, don't give a fuck about women. In fact, they fucking hate women, and a bunch of powerful white rich men who have the resources and the know-how and the networks in order to infiltrate, to make this fucking toxic ideology infiltrate our fucking organisations, meanwhile blocking all of the things that are actually going to help trans rights in the long term, like looking at the care, right? Psychological care, making sure that you do a differential diagnosis when on these things, right? Making sure that people understand the implications, like making sure that doctors follow the Hippocratic Oath, which is first do no harm. Like the doctors are actually just experimenting on kids right now, doing full mastectomies on 14-year-old girls. This is not me saying the sky's falling. This is happening. Okay? Now, I just think that people need to just calm down. And I know that there's an element of people that I've lost. Okay. If there's one thing that we can take away from this video is that I mean well and I care and I am not transphobic, regardless of what anyone might say. What I have to say might be uncomfortable. Okay. But discomfort is not violence. Okay. Words, you can incite violence with words, but it's not violence in its own right, okay? My job is to try and get everyday people speaking up to help the women who are being fucking tortured, okay? And this is somewhat related to the critical theory cult. It's not just trans cult, that's just the dominant one. There's others as well, which is the intersectionality thing that I've talked about before. So anyway, but yes, this is what it takes to be considered a target of hate. I imagine that she would have gotten, there's a lot of reasons to not like Hillary Clinton, right? But this is not one of them, okay? But all she said was, I'm not familiar with it. I'm getting used to it. I need a minute. Remember how I said that earlier? I need a minute. I just fucking need a minute to figure this out. I don't know. And, you know, she was asked a leading question and she's 72 years old and she goes, well, and this is like most feminists who go, well, hang on, I'm running it through my classical feminist filter, right? Like one thing that, whatever you say about Hillary Clinton, you'll agree that she's pretty feminist. And do what I did, which is I go, hang on, no, that's not feminism. That's not, you know, and that's probably what she's done is she's gone, okay, has something changed? Yeah, it has. Cult's taken over. Okay. So anyway, but she and again, she didn't say anything wrong. So I would say that absolutely, Hillary replied. Okay. Oh, here we go. So while Chelsea used this line of questioning to respond again unequivocally, right? Chelsea complied. She didn't fucking say anything, right? The contrast is fucking ridiculous. Deftly pivoting to a discussion of supporting children being able to play on the sports teams that match their own gender identity. Her mother apparently agreed with Aikenhead. Oh my God, did she not toe the line? Okay, though what exactly is somewhat unclear, given the lack of direct questions. Okay, I think the question was pretty fucking clear. All right, it was a hyperbolic question to try and fucking understand, somebody who's a prominent, pretty well-known feminist, right, to fucking think. And Chelsea's just used a reflex, I'm sure of it. Okay, she's a smart woman. I would think she just fucking knows that, yeah, she knows how powerful these people are, right? She's got young children. So, anyway, so Hillary said, I would say that absolutely. Absolutely yes, right, about change rooms and yeah. Okay, that it's a problem. And she said, I think you've got to be sensitive to how difficult this is. There are women who'd say to a trans woman, you know what, you've never had the kind of life experiences that I've had. So I respect who you are, but don't tell me you're the same as me. I hear that conversation all the time. So all Hillary Clinton did, right, I've got really dry skin, so I apologise. All Hillary Clinton did, fucking hell, sorry, is listen to what people are saying, relay that she had heard what people are saying, and they have now equated that to her being a TERF. So the high crime of listening to women is enough to get you fucking skewered, all right? So I just wanted to I hope this video has been, good, but it's, yeah. So, yes. Oh, this was the other thing, right? Sorry, I was lingering because I thought that there was something else. So she said something else a while back. And basically, the other high crime that Hillary Clinton has been tried for is when she's for saying the following, okay? Sometimes when your child has an issue, I had a friend who a few years ago called up and said, I don't know who to talk to about this, but my little girl wants to be a boy. I'll do a separate thing on girls because it's separate. What do I do? Several of us, we didn't know what to do. We'd never had a friend who faced that before. And several of us kind of read everything, talked to people and gave her advice. And it was really gutsy of her to say, okay, I'm going to respect the feelings of my child as hard as it is for me to understand this. So I think when the question was asked personally, everyone faces a moment of decision, and you have to reach deep down inside and decide what's right for you to do. Hopefully it's reached with love and understanding, but it's gutsy. Okay? So, and this is what Jezebel have to say about it. Dog whistle starts. Painting a parent accepting their trans child as a gutsy decision rather than the bare minimum a parent should do to support and love their child. See the emotional blackmail, right? So if you disagree and you know your kid, and you go, no, I don't think you are. I think that you've got other stuff going on. And also, I don't think that you could be anyone could be born in the wrong body. I think that maybe you should just see someone who can help you work through that and learn to, and also the fact knowing that there's a massive social contagion going on with young girls who think that they're boys because they've been fed this shit, okay? That maybe it might be a bit more complicated. And if you hesitate to figure it out, right? If you look sideways, if you use empathy and praise somebody for making a very difficult fucking choice for their child, right? Or having to learn to change their view or whatever, right? And I just want to point out that mermaids in the UK will often help to alienate. So basically there's this whole movement as well with young girls or young boys where if they say that they're trans, whether they are or not, and they're being taught this shit in school, right? They're being taught that they're born in the wrong body based on whether they like Barbie or Ken or fucking G.I. Joe. I'm not kidding you. Fucking, it's... and teenagers being teenagers, they're fucking morons, right? As much as I love them, they're fucking morons. But if you object as a parent, they will actually can use the child protection system to remove you from your child, and mermaids will actually help you do that. So, and that's becoming more and more clear. And you've got these people who are promising to, they'll alienate you from your child if you don't comply completely. Okay, so this is actually loaded, very loaded, which is that as a parent, if even even just needing a minute to accept it, even just asking questions, even just going, I don't think it is, that's grounds for you to be alienated from your child, and removal of your parental rights, removal of your ability to consent to your child having medical procedures, and all of those things. Okay, so that's going to be another separate issue because I want to talk about girls, but particularly, and also Munchausen's by proxy is a real thing, and there are people who will use this stuff. There's some fucking crazy people out there, okay? Again, we don't live in unicorn land. So anyway, I know that this has been long. Watch the South Park episode, okay? Yeah, I am hoping that this doesn't come across too terribly, and I really want to, I have hesitated to talk about it because obviously I know that it's probably going to get misrepresented or misunderstood or hopefully ignored, to be honest with you. I'm just hoping that things start to blow over soon, and I'm seeing stuff go mainstream to the point where most reasonable people are going, this is a bit fucking stupid, and as Aussies go. But yeah, I'm hoping that it will just blow over. I really am, but if it doesn't, then I'm in deep shit. And I'm scared. I'm fear for my safety. I'm not going to lie to you. I actually fear for my safety with these people. So, and I'm not someone to fucking get hysterical. I'm someone who's pretty measured, and I don't have a danger chip. So if I feel it, then the threat's real. Okay. So if there's anything that you can take away, I know this has been long. I'm extremely grateful if you watch the whole thing. If you want to share this, that would be great. I'm hesitant to encourage you to do that because I really don't want to get threats, to be honest with you. But at the end of the day, that's just the price of speaking up. And I'm hoping that those that do see this can actually see that I'm trying to speak sense here. There's no hate in my heart. There never has been. I've had trans people on my chat, right? It's they're saying that she's saying it's a problem, okay? Watch Blair White, watch Rose of Dawn, watch others who are telling you that this is a fucking problem, okay? So for the casual observer, thank you. If I lose my job, I'm hoping I have no safety net. I'm very worried, okay? I am worried, honestly, about my livelihood. Any video that I make or do or watch or tweet, it's just a matter of time. I could end up fucking, whatever. But this is important. I care about kids. I care about parents. I care about mothers. I care about daughters. I care about everybody. And I care about trans people. I want trans people to have all of the support and the love and the acceptance and the autonomy and the right, and I want them to have the right to safety, happiness, you know, all of those things, but not at the expense of others, and also not ignoring the very real threat that a bunch of fucking, you know, fetishists, you know, like it's real. Okay. I've given you, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. I've given you all the information that you need. Okay. There'll be some resources in the blog post for this. It might take me a bit longer to do that, but I'll try to get that out today. I hope that you've enjoyed this. If you want to support me, you can visit my website, tayasmith.com.au. There's all these links that have been scrolling throughout the video. It's something that, this is a high risk thing. It probably, you know, like, it's just one of those things. It won't appear in the algorithm. It may not even stay up. Okay. My videos aren't monetized yet. So if you have any way of making it so that I feel a little bit safer, because every time I make a video like this, I worry that I'm going to lose everything. I love you. I love everybody. I hope we can work through this. I hope that all the sane people can start to speak up, especially trans people, intersex people, feminists, and we can sort of we can fix the keep the PC, the fucking SJWs. They need to be dealt with, because they're hiding in plain sight. This is something where they've taken advantage of people's empathy, people's reflexes of goodwill, and I think you've never seen a gender critical feminists are not giving threats. They're fucking making a joke because they're the persecuted ones, and that's how people fucking, you know, react when they're in, you know, it's become so absurd that there's humor and stuff in there. But at the same time, it is men, it is TRAs, it is SJW types, Antifa, anarchists, violent people who are picking on women. Okay? Just so you know that. And this is escalating. And hopefully I don't get murdered. But if I do, that's fine. Okay? I've accepted the fact that there's a threat here. Okay? So I love you. Thanks for watching, especially this long video. And I'll talk to you probably next week. You might get a bonus today. I don't know. Okay. Love you. Bye.